All right, so formal and informal balance. For this project, we are going to create two different compositions. The first one, you're going to pick an aspect of formal balance, and the second one, you're going to use an asymmetrical balance arrangement. Now, we are going to do something kind of interesting to tie these together. So, like I said, we have part A and part B. A is formal, B is informal. But both and then both compositions are going to be kind of presented together. Like the last project, you can do this high tech, low tech. So you can use color for this one, so color construction paper and cut out if you would like. Um, I do want us to kind of play with the idea of construction paper, so you can do this digitally, but I don't really want a lot of drawn lines because I want us focusing on shape, which is why, so even if you do it digitally, kind of think about shapes like you would if you were doing construction paper. But again, you can do it either way. So in the first one, I want you to create a composition that exhibits formal balance. So you can choose from symmetrical, radial, or approximate symmetry. And you're going to use color shapes, like I said, construction paper, digital. I want you to select a color scheme or a group of colors that you're going to use in both compositions. So, and I'll show you some examples of how this is really effective, but it helps unify the two compositions. And so pick a series like 3 to 6 colors that you're going to use in both. The compositions will be 9 by 12, and they can be either landscape or portrait orientation, depending on your concept. And I want you to create a visually interesting composition. So with strong positive negative space, so we should be really comfortable with positive negative space now after the last project. I want you to also develop a theme or concept you wish to explore. And this can be representational, abstract, or non-objective. So again, it can be look like something, it can be like kind of refer to something, or it can just be basic shapes. I'll leave that completely up to you. And it can be a combination of these things. So keeping in mind that you're going to be repeating aspects of your design elements in the second composition. So we're developing kind of a theme, and we're going to be repeating some shapes and colors, but we're going to be organizing the compositions in two different ways. I do recommend that you start out working with some sketches, sketch out some ideas. So thinking about how that's going to look. And consider craftsmanship depending on your media. So the second composition, we're focusing on informal balance, and I am actually going to require that you use asymmetrical balance. So imbalance is not an option. Like I said, it's more advanced. I really want us to be comfortable with creating some strong asymmetrical compositions. We're going to be using the same color scheme as the first composition. It's also going to be 9 by 12, and it's going to be playing with the same theme, but a different arrangement. So you can maybe vary some of the shapes, the size, the scale, what they're doing, and to kind of play with that arrangement so the actual arrangement is asymmetrical. And again, maybe play with some sketches before you get started, consider craftsmanship, and then you're going to present both of these together. Again, like I talked about media a little bit already, think about it in terms of construction paper if you do it digitally, otherwise construction paper. Again, the same kind of, I encourage you to read the assessment specifically. All right, let's look at some examples. So this starts to give you an idea of how these things work. So if we look at the project on the upper left, we can see kind of the motif are the birds and kind of like almost the planets or stars, however you want to look at that, and then the colors that are repeated. And so they actually did just kind of trace and cut out that shape of the bird and just in different colors. Nothing wrong with doing it that way, playing with that. But you can see in the left example, very specifically, that's both radial and symmetrical. And then we have an asymmetrical example on the right-hand side. So that's a really great example. Below that, this is kind of more of a stylized motif, kind of with plants. So it's a really nice contrast of these kind of organic forms versus rectilinear forms. And the plant motif here on the left-hand side, that again, playing with the radial, and then the asymmetrical on the right-hand side. So again, a lot of times students say that it was harder to do the asymmetrical one just because the other one is so specific. So really kind of just play and explore, and remember that as long as it starts to feel balanced and complete, that's really what we're going for. The turtles at the top is fun. Obviously we have kind of more of a symmetrical, like vertical line of symmetry here in this one, and then over here, you know, it feels a little bit balanced. Now, one thing we talked about in this particular critique is the turtles here and smaller, and then we have kind of these repeated shapes here. But it does, even though this particular flower has more going on because of the brightness of these, this feels heavier on the top. So maybe even like one more flower or shifting this down or just maybe redistributing a little might increase the success of that particular composition. But overall, it's a great concept, lots of fun. Then we have, I love the peacock. I think that's really fun, kind of showing the vertical again, axis here, same on either side, and then playing with like kind of the stylized feathers on the right-hand side. So you can see what students have done with like color and design on this. Let's see, I think, yeah, I had a few more here. Now on the top left, we can see the flower itself kind of, and it's radial but also symmetrical in this particular format. And then the asymmetrical here. Now, just because it's radial, like the flower itself is radial, the way it's set in the composition, but this particular composition is not that interesting. Like I know that they spend a ton of time building the flower, but they really could have added some of these stem aspects or other petals or something else to this because it just feels incomplete. So I want you, and I included this for two reasons. One, because sometimes you can see like someone worked really hard on this and it maybe didn't turn out the way they wanted, or like don't forget to consider the negative space. They were so focused on the positive space, it's like they forgot the negative space existed, as opposed to like their asymmetrical one. This is beautiful. Great movement, good positive and negative space. So really kind of consider that. Okay, this is a fun one here. They had a really hard time. They're like, how do I put a crescent moon and make that? So even though we never really see the crescent moon that way, they positioned it that way. And then they had a lot of fun with the dandelion fluff in this one. So it doesn't have to be, even if it's kind of realistic, it can still be abstract. And then this one is fun because it's non-objective, but they really, and yes, this is actually cut paper. I know, it's insane, right? It looks like it's hand-drawn, but I personally don't recommend getting your projects, like the whole reason I have you do cut paper and not drawing is so they don't get quite that intricate. But it's beautiful. It turned out really nice. But again, I wouldn't really go that small. But they took elements of this formal one on the bottom, whoops, sorry, and then they replicated it and totally changed the context on the top and saw it from a totally different perspective. And I also, it's kind of fun that they break the border here a little bit too. So really strong examples. So I hope that gives you an idea. Have fun with this one. Just kind of play with the arrangement and the colors until, you know, it feels like you have strong compositions. Be aware of the positive, negative space. All right, check in if you have any questions. Otherwise, see you next time.